Hey, today we're going to talk about the new Flying Lotus album, Flamagra. I've listened to this album only once when I was on the plane flying to Norway, and I think it is a slow burner. I don't think it's this kind of album that you can review after just one listen. And that's why I have a coffee and I'll be listening. What? I'll be listening. Oh, great, I have spoon here. But I've got Spotify here, so we'll be sort of listening to this together. What I wanted to say already now is that he is from a family of musicians. His great aunt was famous Alice Coltrane, the fantastic jazz pianist and harp player. And of course he did sample her music into his records. And his grandmother was Marilyn McLeod, who was a fantastic disco soul singer. Why this is important? It's because this album has a very psychedelic soul vibe. And I think it is sort of trend right now, like when you listen to new Tyler the Creator album, it is very psychedelic, but it's not like psychedelic rap like, let's say, cloud rap, but really based on the old stuff, like from the end of 70s, beginning of 80s, or even earlier. So I think this is the new trend, and these two albums like sort of come together. I also noticed how big amount of people, like by default, were rating this album low, and in opposition to his old albums like Los Angeles and particularly Cosmogramma. Cosmogramma is like this album where he really does this jazz hip hop experiments. But I may think it's because it's the same people who discovered him like 10 years earlier, so they were 10 years younger and 10 years less experienced in listening to music. So I think it simply made a bigger impact on them, because I listen to all these albums now at the same time, and Flamagra is definitely not worse. It's different. All of his albums are different, but I think it might be actually the most well thought album that he has ever recorded. I'm a jazz listener. I'm not easily satisfied with new jazz samples. This is not something that can make me happy just because it exists. Another very significant thing that I noticed, Flying Lotus is very hit or miss, sometimes even within one song on his previous albums. Like for example, one moment is like a total cringe fest, but then he has like a few minutes of something really magnificent. So this is a problem with him in particular. So when we look at the cover of the album, we see the mushroom. We see fire, so the recurring theme of the album will be fire, like death was in one of his previous albums, You're Dead. But also the mushrooms will be significant here, because like I said, it's pretty psychedelic. However, Flying Lotus, I've heard he's not taking drugs, not anymore, but you can hear that he was at least heavily influenced here and there on the musical side. So okay, so let's listen. Let's listen and then let's talk. So yeah, this is a slow burner, and this is an album that you should definitely re-listen to. And pay attention to what is happening over there in the background, so then it will not really sound like such an elevator album. It starts with the track Heroes, which basically sets the mood for the whole album, because it is deep and psychedelic, and the voice invites to the other world, to some different space. Then you have instrumental tracks. I'm pretty happy that the whole album is not like this, but the tracks by themselves, they are pretty rich in layers, so at first I didn't really hear it. Postrequisite is the song that he released already in 2017 and he decided to include on this album. And this first part of the album reminds me, I know he's from LA, he was singing about LA, but I was not in LA, I was in New York once, and at first I thought it was completely overrated, but then one day I went out to Manhattan, and well, I was going through Manhattan like a lot, but one day I went there in the morning when it was raining, and I was sitting in some diners, and they played music similar to this, like some generic really music, but it helped me like this type of style, this type of atmosphere. So for me it's more about capturing the mood rather than some special artistic relevance. And he has the neo-soul and the traditional soul here right next to each other. More is a song with Anderson .Paak, Yeah, it's pretty moody. That's precisely a song you could hear while drinking coffee in the morning. And then there is Burning Down the House with George Clinton, the guy from Funkadelic Parliament fame. Actually, Parliament, they had an album last year, I think, and I listened to this. They are still good songwriters when they want to do the things that they used to do in the past when they do this psychedelic soul type of things. And fortunately here George Clinton is in his own zone, in his ballpark. I read somewhere among several reviews that he is not hitting the key, that he's not hitting the keynote. Well, of course he's not hitting the keynotes because this is psychedelic. This is supposed to be like this. This is supposed to drug your brain, and so it does. And there's actually a short instrumental track between the Anderson .Paak song and the George Clinton song, and it's like an extended outro and at the same time introduction to the new song. Maybe it's like 20 seconds too long, but I think he's generally having these instrumental tracks to change the moods, and yeah, he's treating them like interludes to me. If the whole album was just about these instrumental tracks, of course I wouldn't like it, but in little amounts this is fine. And then there's another song, it's Spontaneous with Little Dragon. It is a synth-punk song. Synth-punk, fortunately, is coming back. Tyler, the creator, also is using a lot of it. It's also one of these morning coffee songs. It's catchy. I didn't like it at first, but now when I listened to this, it was like... it was melodic, it was pleasant, it was fun. And this part of the album finishes with Takashi. It's not about this guy. Actually, when I was flying, I saw a guy with hair like this, seriously. There was a group of people and they were like Polish, but they were behaving obnoxiously like British tourists. And they were not even from Warsaw, they were from my city. This is horrible. The Takashi song is the longest instrumental track on this album, and it is an outro from this loungy, old school first part, because it matches already with the other track, with the next track, the Pilgrim Side Eye, that has a very choppy rhythm, and it's like more modern songwriting. It will lead up to the song with Tirawak. But back to the Takashi song, because I saw a lot of people like it. Me, well, it is charming in its way, because it reminds me a lot of the late 70s plastic jazz fusion, which I guess for 6 minutes it's cute. If it was more than that, it wouldn't be cute at all, trust me. Okay, I see I had my microphone switched off like an idiot. Okay. Yellow Belly with Tirawak offers a very modern songwriting, borderlining deconstructed club. This already belongs to the second part, which I call a rhythmic part, because there's a lot of clapping or like tapping on something, and the subsequent songs offer experience like this. Yellow Belly is one of my favorite songs on this album, and isn't it the longest song Tirawak has ever recorded anyway? It's like 3 minutes. Black Balloons with Denzel Curry is of course very good, but okay, maybe this is the song that doesn't really fit my scheme. It sounds a bit like old school hip hop. I mean, Denzel Curry is a very versatile rapper, and it's a very good song. But I don't think there is a very big connection with the song before and the song after. The song after is Fire Is Coming. It's with David Lynch. It starts actually with some spoken word avant-garde with some high key piano note, and then it develops into basically as a techno rhythmic song with the rhythm that gets into your head, and it's one of the things that you definitely remember after listening to this album. Maybe that's why it's several people's favorite song. Well, yes, because it is also one of the best. Then Inside Your Home continues with the rhythm, and it brings you over to actually virtual with Shabazz Palaces, where you have like 3 layers, and it actually made me realize something. The basic layer is the drumming, and the top layer is the vocal, or also some abstract rapping, and the middle is the melody. And I noticed how he is using the same melody theme all throughout the album. Because in Remind You, it's also same-ish. So yes, like from the beginning of the album, he has a theme that has some slight variations here and there. And then he is leading us to the third part of the album, the one that left the biggest impression on me, the soul part of the album. Maybe, Andromeda, I guess, is the least appealing song on Flamagra. And Remind You also, maybe it's not anything special to me, but yeah, they slowly just transfer you. And Say Something is a song where actually nobody says anything, but it has a cabaret vibe. There is the piano and the cello or something cello similar to this, and Debbie is depressed already, is indifferent in mood. And on Spotify, when there are some little clips to the song, Flying Lotus is standing in flames, and he's wearing something similar to what Jimi Hendrix was wearing in the 60s. I think Prince also was sporting similar style, and game blouses. Okay, this was some NBA thing. This song maybe doesn't start in some spectacular way. I thought, okay, look, another instrumental track, like whatever, but the ending is quite powerful. It's melodic, pretty deep, and psychedelic. So the next track are calmer, more introspective, even the synth funk records like the one with Thundercat called The Climb, and with Toro y Moi, 9 Carats. This 9 Carats sounds exactly like something that I would find randomly on YouTube on some playlists, or I don't know, on Reddit, among forgotten synth funk records. I like this type of songs, I like the mood in this. One of my favorite songs here also. But my favorite one is the one with Solange, Land of Honey. And of course everybody already knows by now that Solange is better than Beyonce. I think people who reckon otherwise perhaps are not watching this channel or ever will. So we've got this one straight. I'm curious how this would sound with Minnie Riperton, because it does sound something that would fit her voice. Minnie Riperton is some old-time soul diva, if you haven't heard about her. And the song ends with sort of cinematic ending, like film soundtrack. And then we have track Thank You Malcolm. Seriously, when I looked at the tracks, I thought it was about Malcolm X, but it's about Mac Miller. And then you had the outro, the pace is already very, very slow. But here you feel like already you had a long trip with Flying Lotus on this album. For sure this is a long album. For sure you need to listen deeply to it. And you need to have some liking for synth funk and some plastic sounds that will come here and there. By the way, on the last track, you have credits. Like somewhere in the middle of this album, I was thinking, I hear some Herbie Hancock imposter here, and then there are credits, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like Herbie Hancock, like for real on this. And by the way, is this Burzum who made the logo for this? I don't see in credits, but I think so. Same graphic designer, clearly. So yeah, I really like the album because I like the mood of it. I think it's mature. I think it pays beautiful homage to the times when his grandmother was relevant in music. So I don't care what other people say. For me, this is easily this. So thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, thank you for everything, and I'll see you next time. Bye!